Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 185 of Local Chat. Oh boy, it took a long time to get here. Some would say nearly 184 times. Folks, joining us today, we've got Carl from Save Data.
All the way from the Suez.
Nice. From Libya, right? Western side of Africa?
Yeah.
Yeah. Shout out to Will. We've also got Kyle with us. How's it going, Kyle?
It's going good. It's been a bit of a crazy week, but happy to be here. And I feel like having Kyle and Carl, like, there's going to be some mess up at some point between one of us. But,
yeah. I was thinking about getting a third K on the panel, and I was like, no, that's risking fate right there.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, I don't know. Depends. It's like a soft K. Is that a thing?
It's like in baseball when they've got strikeouts. They got
It's
3
backwards.
Ks. Yeah, baseball's racist, in case you didn't know. Hey, speaking of racist, Kyle, how was the Borderlands movie?
Oh, man. I don't know if I would call it racist. I would call it very bad and not good at all. It's one of those movies where 10, 15 minutes into it, you're like, I'm really tired. How long is this movie? And you're checking your phone to be like, it's not that long, like 2 hours, or I think it was like an hour 45 or something like that. Like, it's not that long, but it just drags and drags. No amount of Cate Blanchett can save that movie. Also, I'm sorry, I'm with the Red Letter Media guys. She's just too old for that role. They call me ageist
100%.
or whatever. She's just like, and also, if you've played the first game, the reveal that happens in the third act of the Borderlands movie is literally in the intro of the first Borderlands game. Like,
oh my God.
Like, they hold that back for no reason. And the entire time you're like, what? Like, why isn't this thing happening? Like, clearly this should have happened at the very beginning. And it's like, no, that was just like the whole reveal. So stupid. It doesn't look like terrible. Like, the special effects are like, they're fine. Anything with a close up is clearly like blue screen, like you can tell. But like, some of the wide shots are like, yeah, it's fine. I'm not a Borderlands fan. I've never actually beaten one of the games. I think I sunk like 8 hours into the first one, and I was like, not interested. But it's one of those movies where you feel tired while you're watching it, and it's just nothing about it is compelling to like want to know more. It's just thrown at you and as it is. So I was not a fan. Do not recommend it, which I even on some of the worst movies I've seen, I'll be like, well, if you're into like certain things, you could go see this movie. I have nothing good to say about Borderlands.
I didn't realize until today when I heard it on a podcast that Cate Blanchett is the main character of the film.
Oh. Yeah, she's Lilith, and she says her name at one point, and her Australian accent comes through so much where she's like Lilith. Like, it's so strong. It's really funny. But yeah, she's the main character.
Carl, if I may have a Beirut aside real quick, what's your preferred Beirut movie theater? Because I had a favorite.
Was the City Center Vox Cinemas there when you were here?
No, it was not. Is it nice?
Yeah, it has probably the best IMAX theater.
Oh,
Nice.
okay. I really liked Grand ABC. That was mine.
Yeah.
Yeah. It wasn't too much of a hike. And if I didn't want to do the hike, I would go to Concord, because Concord was like, I could walk to Concord.
It is so weird to hear an American talk about Lebanese movie theater.
I know.
Like,
I have a favorite.
AI generated.
I know.
We're not sure if Ian actually is American though, so
yeah, he's not.
We'll hold off on that. So
One of the funniest things that ever happened to me while I was in Beirut was I was watching a movie, and I forget the name of the movie, but it's a movie with Brad Pitt, and he plays a spy that's bouncing around the Middle East. And there's a scene. It's Brad Pitt and Robert Redford, I believe. And there's a scene where Brad Pitt is talking to his lover, and he's like, "Sorry, honey, I got to go to the Becca Valley today." And I'm like, "Oh, okay, that's not how you say it." Like, it was very funny. Anyways, enough of the fucking chit chat, folks. Carl, tell me about Angerfoot, because I'm excited.
Ooh. Well, it's my Tuesday night activities, if you know what I mean. Angerfoot is a game made by Devolver. Well, I don't think it was originally made by Devolver. I could be wrong about that, though. It's Every now and then you need a game that's kind of dumb and it's just fun and not trying to be more than that. And that's what Angerfoot was. It's a first-person shooter. You have your foot and you unlock different types of shoes, and different types of shoes do different things, and you kick people and they fly across the screen, or they combust.
Oh, so good.
Or you dash through them, and it's great. You start off with no shoes. You're just green toes with... If your foot is green, just seek help. And you play as Angerfoot. That's your name. You are the man with the person with the angry foot. And they stole your sneaker collection. Your sacred sneaker collection. So now you're going up against all the gangs in, I think it was called Shit World, and including the police. The police are the first people you take down, which, ACAB, baby. And you go up against gangs to get your shoes back. Angerfoot.
Yeah. ACAB, all cops aren't bastards. That's right. It sounds like
good save there.
Angerfoot is, I am keeping a list this year of possible goaties, and what I mean is, would it possibly make my top 10 list, in which case I need to play it? Should I have Angerfoot on that possible top 10 list?
Do you like fast-paced bullshit that's just very surface level enjoyability?
I did love Hotline Miami.
I love American politics.
Okay. Nice. It is very Hotline Miami, but in a good way.
Okay.
I don't know. It doesn't lean into like trying to be too serious more than it. Like it doesn't even lean into it at all. It's just fun. You run around, you kick people, you shoot guns, and it has a boss fight system, which is pretty cool. And yeah, it's fun. It's fun. It's enjoyable. It's like it doesn't overstay its welcome.
Okay.
And it's cool.
So
and it has a level of
good?
difficulty. The soundtrack is if you're into like you know, like the club music from the Blade Trinity movies.
Yes.
If you're into that shit, great.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, that sounds so good. What is League Swarm?
Oh yeah, so this is how I trick you into talking about League of Legends.
Never mind.
So
is this a mode or something, like a limited time
yeah, they
event?
added like you know how, like you get the mobile game ads for like it's a dude and like it's like Vampire Survivors, but on League, and it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool.
That sounds cool.
It has a cool item like concept. So you have your stats, which you can unlock by leveling up. So you start off with no stats, just like your base weapon, and then your weapons are in subcategories of so let's say the stat of damage has like 3 allocated weapons, the stat of ability haste has 3 allocated weapons, and so on. And to upgrade your weapons so they become broken, you need to have that stat, and you need to upgrade the weapon to level 5, and it's pretty interesting. And you have like little pop-up side quests when you're doing the thing. It's pretty fun. It made me play League again after like not doing that for 3 months.
That's cool. That sounds good. I do like weird limited time events, especially if they are actually different and not just play the game and get a skin type of thing.
Yeah.
Same.
Yeah. And you know, MOBAs are timely. We've got a news article about MOBA in a way. I see here you've also been playing Elderly Rang. Have you been helping out at the Senior Citizen Center?
Yeah. The Rum Diddly Rang. I have been doing that. Now, this is a great segue into Kyle's thing, but I haven't played the DLC. I'm playing.
I was
going to
ask
game.
which part.
I'm 4 years. When did Elden Ring come out? 2022. I'm 2 years late. No, yeah, 2022. I'm 2 years late to the hype train. I got a PS5 like last-ish year for Spider-Man 2, and have not gotten a lot of games for it. And I was like, you know what? Time to get.
Welcome to having a PlayStation.
Yeah. So I dipped my toe into Elden Ring, and it is so. Like, you know that it's a good game. People talk about it all the time. And then you go in with the expectation of like, okay, it's a FromSoft game. We're doing the same thing again. And then you play it and you're like, no. Like, yeah, it is just genuinely a really good game. It is huge. And it does feel like there's always more things to discover, more mechanics that are really cool to like fuck around with. Or you can just keep it simple and play the game, which has a really pretty interesting story. And it just immerses you in a good way. It's a AAA game. It feels like I grew up in like the culture of like don't give AAA game to like a lot of credit, but like you just can't. Miyazaki is just a mastermind, and Elden Ring.
It's very different too. Those Soulsborne games are very different. There's more clones of them now, but it is still a very different type of game compared to 99% of what's out there on the market.
Yeah. I just wish that the horse would just control the way that I want it to.
Horses are hard, man. Horses are hard.
I don't know if I share that complaint. Because
Really?
I didn't use the horse like that. I didn't do that much like horse combat. And there's not like that much platforming that you need the horse for. Maybe in like Lingrave, but it's especially towards like the later sections. I don't know.
There are certain areas where I was like, oh, that's a cool thing I want to get to. And I've legitimately just been flung off a cliff because Torrent did not want to turn 180 like I wanted him to. And it just was like, oh, we're leaving now.
Yep.
Yeah. I think there's always going to be some amount of like jank with that. But I don't know. I like that mechanic a lot. I like just being able to move faster is nice through that world, especially when you have to do a lot of backtracking and stuff. It's nice, but I don't know. I liked it, and I don't want to steal your thunder by talking about the DLC. Also, I don't know what Ian's going to do next as far as who goes next, so I don't want to overstep my bounds.
Yeah,
this is Ian's show.
That's a great segue. Kyle, how's the Elden Ring DLC going?
I'm so glad you asked. So I'm going to spoil the base game for you, Car. No, I'm just kidding. No, the DLC is great. It is very much more of the same in the best possible way. I love, as I've said many times before, I love being in that world or that universe and playing through it with friends. I know Halucha has said that, Carl, you need to play with me and Jake. I have not actually played with Jake, so that would be a first for all of us. But Jake has put out there that he wants to do some co-op multiplayer stuff, which is actually how I mainly play Elden Ring. I play with my friend in Brazil, and we went through the entire base game together. I've gone through it by myself, but I prefer playing with other people. And there's actually a mod you can do seamless co-op multiplayer where there's no invasions and there's no smoke walls blocking you from going into different places. So it works great. Supposedly, we haven't tried it yet, but my friend in Brazil has tried it, but we should all collectively try it and have a grand old time. But yeah, Elden Ring DLC, great. I love it. I want more, but I don't, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think there's going to be any more. Like that's pretty much it, right?
I don't know if that's definitive.
That's why I'm not sure. Yeah. I don't know what can't remember what FromSoft has said, but regardless, I'm happy with what they put out, and Halucha wants Subpixel to come to Brazil, apparently, so we'll get right on that.
I see you've also been playing the Blue People game. Is that right? Blue Man Group?
Yeah, it's great. 3 different characters, exact same, rhythm based, a lot of drums and stuff. You could actually use the Donkey Kong.
Why isn't there a Blue Man Group game? I would play the shit out of that. That would be awesome.
I feel like we're like 15 years too late for that, but yeah. I feel like they would fit well if they put out like a demo disc of a game that like never actually got, like a 15-minute kind of Blue Man Group game experience would be pretty cool.
Yeah, but, like WarioWare style Blue Man Group game. Yeah,
I think that'd be cool. But no, Avatar Frontiers of Pandora, which is a mouthful. I am doing the opposite with this game that I did with Assassin's Creed Odyssey, where for like 3 or 4 weeks, I only played Assassin's Creed Odyssey, and it took me 170 some hours to beat the full game, all the DLCs, and like almost 100% it. This game is a Ubisoft game, so it is full of very unnecessary bullshit, but I'm taking it at a much slower pace, where it's like I'll just plug like 2 hours every other day, every couple days, and it's kind of just a nice world to be in. Like I like the movies, I like the universe of Avatar, and getting to see a bunch of different stuff that's not in the movies that I call him Jim Cameron,
Jimmy.
that James
Jimmy the Sub Cameron.
Yes.
Wow.
He's a big it's a big sub. Yep. Big strong sub. And he Yeah, he's like alluded to a lot of the stuff when the game was sort of coming out of like, yeah, like we talked to all the people at Massive, I think is the developer that made it, and they had a really nice thing that came out when John Landau died. He was one of the executive producers and has worked with James Cameron for like decades. He passed away. I think he was dealing with cancer for the past few years, and like you go to the main menu and there's like just a really nice like thank you John Landau for like all your work, and he apparently helped with the production of the game and concepting everything. It was one of those things where it's like, oh, that was nice. Like they didn't have to do that. But the game itself is fine. Like there's nothing super stand out about it other than the graphics, which if you watch a lot of breakdown videos on how they did that, there's some crazy stuff that they're doing as far as using ray traced sound effects. And that trigger throughout, like all the different plants have like ray sound effects that trigger an entire ecosystem within different patches of the world. Really, really cool. There's a lot of it. It almost feels like going back to basics with like what Assassin's Creed does for history. Where or they used to, at least. I don't know if they still do, but it was very like history based. This is like that, but for an alien planet, where like you can go in and like read glossary stuff, which I'm not normally into, but the way it's presented feels pretty naturalistic and it doesn't take away from anything. So like, I don't know, it's just a cool place to be, and it's not overbearing. It's not sort of like, I don't feel the need to constantly be grinding to go through the world and complete everything. It's just like, I'll knock out a few hours here and take a break and come back to it when I'm ready. So I like it. It's not breaking boundaries, but it's fun.
Yeah, what's the main gameplay? Is it like puzzles? Is it gathering? Is it combat?
Yeah, so it's got one of those styles where you can kind of pick and choose what you want your main to be, where if you want to just be straight up attacking, you can do the whole like stealth bow and arrow gameplay. You can do guns. You can use plants and mix herbs and foods to create buffs. There's a whole system where it's like there's like probably 1,000 different ingredients you could pick, and you can mix like any 2 or 3, and it'll come up with like you don't know what this does, but once you eat it, you'll find out. So you kind of do that a couple times, and you're like, okay, well, this seems to help me a little bit. So that part of it is pretty interesting, and there's skill trees for each of those specific things. But once you get your Ikran, your flying glider thing. That's when everything really opens up, and you have the entire like southern part of the map that you can completely like fly through, and that's more like the classic like jungle of Pandora. And then the middle part of the game so far is like the high plains, so it's you can't like fly there at first. You have to kind of unlock certain things, but again, once you do that, you can pretty much go anywhere you want, and it's huge. I mean, you like the breadth and scale of the world that they created is like massive. And it's almost to the point where it feels like it is too much. And if it was presented as from the start, you could go anywhere, it probably would feel that way. But since they sort of section you off into a still very large piece of land, it feels manageable. And then it's like, okay, well, I've done basically everything I'm going to do in this part. Now this new part opens up to me, and it's like you can go back if you want to, and there's little missions and stuff. But it's cool. I mean, I like it. There's also I think it's called a dire horse, is like the horse. I don't fuck around with that. I'd fly everywhere.
Oh,
so
was that horse in the first game, or was it only the second game?
I think it was in the first.
I mean, movie.
Yeah. It's like it's like Jake is like training or whatever.
Yeah, first movie.
It's got like 6 feet or something. Everything has like 6 appendages.
It's a horse, but 2 extra feet.
It's dire. Yeah. That's how you know. But yeah.
Final question. Would Jake Sully have been at January 6th?
God damn it.
I mean, I think the answer is yes. He's like a military tryhard.
I think pre Navi, Jake Sully would have been at January 6th. Post Navi would have like wanted to be there secretly, but like wouldn't have told his wife. So yeah.
Honestly, I feel like his wife is more of a Trumper than Jake Sully is.
She's like, I don't know.
She's like a fanatic.
She's voting for Kamala in my vote. She's literally a tree hugger, but
I feel like I don't know her personal leanings, but whoever she sides with, she's ride or die. Like she would have been at their January 6th without a doubt. You know
what is the Avatar, like the Na'vi version of January 6th? It's like
isn't it
to overthrow Awa or something?
Isn't it the tree scene in the first movie?
That's
more when they get ambushed. So I guess that's a good point. Maybe that's the third movie. The third movie has
what it is. Fire and Ash.
Fire and Ash.
No.
Jet fuel can't melt steel beams. There it is, right there.
Jesus.
Folks, I've been playing some video games this week. I've been playing 3 games. I've been doing a bit of a sampler platter of video games. First up is Arena Breakout Infinite. Have you guys heard of Arena Breakout Infinite?
No.
You know, honestly, good for you, because I think the problem with this game is that if you have heard of it, you got excited, and then it hit. I think it hit early access this week, so anybody can play it. And the long story short is this is I don't know who made it. I want to say Nexon. I don't think that's right, but it's basically one of those companies that just pumps out pay to win games that are clones of more popular games. Oh. But here's the thing, right? This is a clone of Escape from Tarkov, and Escape from Tarkov has been in the shitter lately because they've had some bad management of the community and updates and promises, and that game is still in beta, and it's like $50 to play, and they lock a lot of content behind higher like $200 purchase tiers and shit. So this was one of those genres that was ripe for a free-to-play game to come in. And this was getting a lot of buzz in the alpha and the beta. People who were playing it said, hey, this feels really cool. And it has a lot of cool quality of life features to it. The problem is, guess what, folks? It's riddled with fucking microtransactions to the extent where there's a TikTok going around of a guy who paid money to purchase premium armor, put that on one of the training dummies, and then shot at it with a regular assault rifle. And I believe it took him 47 rounds to pierce the premium armor. So the first 46 rounds did 0 damage against the pay to win armor.
Oh my gosh.
So it's one of those things where it had so much positive buzz because people were like, oh, they're going to fix a lot of the Escape from Tarkov problems. And they do. They have some cool quality of life stuff. Like, it is a looter shooter. It's an escape from the zone type of game. And at the end of the round, they have a really cool thing where they show you the map and then they show you a timeline, you moving across the map, where you went, where you looted, you shot this guy here. And that's so fucking cool, right? It's a lot of quality of life stuff like that, but it feels like it is just riddled with microtransactions. And I don't think I like extraction shooters. Do you guys like extraction shooters?
It depends. Yeah. I mean, if I'm playing with friends, maybe, but not for very long.
Yeah. I feel like my number one problem is that there's too much at stake. And what I mean by that is I like playing Arma and other milsim type games. There's a lot there's things at stake there, right? Like, you can die, and when you die, you have to respawn, and you're a kilometer from where you were, and you have to do like a 5-10 minute hike. But I'm okay with that because that feels realistic. Whereas a lot of looter shooters and extraction shooters are like a bit more arcadey gameplay, but if you die, you lose that gun. And that's out of your inventory, and you can't use that in future rounds. And that makes me way too fucking anxious, and I don't enjoy that. So playing Arena Breakout Infinite, I just played like the tutorial mission, and then I played 1 round, and it's too much of a combination of a lot of bad microtransactions and too much anxiety for me to play an extraction shooter, which sucks. I thought I would like this. It's free to play. If you're into these games, maybe give it a shot. It is free to play, but can't recommend it. The other game I played is Delta Force Haktua. Oh. You guys heard about this game?
I've heard of Delta Force.
This is the Delta Force, Kyle. This is a company that purchased the original Delta Force IP from Delta Force Black Hawk Down and a lot of those Delta Force games from the 90s and early 2000s.
We had Delta Force Black Hawk Down, I think, on CD. So
those games were so good. But the thing was, I never had them. I only had the demos, and I just played the demos over and over again.
Maybe that's what we had. Maybe that's what we had on like a demo disc or something. Good. I do remember having it, though.
They had one that was basically a Battlefield clone, but it was so much better. And this was around like 2002, 2003. And I would love to go back in time and purchase that game and actually play it online. Because again, I could only play the demo. But anyways, yeah, so this is a company that came along, purchased that IP, has put out a game. This is also free to play. It's in playtest right now. But all you have to do is go to Steam and say, I want to be in this playtest, and you get an email an hour later that's like, join the playtest. The best way to put this is it is very similar to Battlefield, but you also have some hero-based shooters in it in terms of you're picking operators and they have skills. Like I was playing as a guy this morning where one of his skills was that he pulled out a grenade launcher and it shot like 3 or 4 grenades in rapid succession. So he could like point in and be like, pop, 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 pop. And he also had an ability where he could go into overload where it made him sprint faster. And I think he was like scouting people around him, like scanning the arena. It's weird. This basically just feels like Battlefield plus hero shooter. And they also have an extraction shooter mode and it's free to play. So I'm not super into it because this is a compliment for this game and another game, which is I played a round of this morning and I was like, hey, this feels pretty good. But it also feels a lot like BattleBit Remastered. I should play more BattleBit Remastered, which is a fucking great Battlefield game.
I remember you and Will playing that. It looked fun.
It's great. It's great. And I think the problem that I have with this game is not a problem with this game necessarily. It's a problem with AAA games in general, which is they throw a lot of animation. They throw a lot of polish. They throw a lot of let's have a fancy animation transition here and all this popping back and forth. And let's make the game look really, really good. But that means it takes 5 seconds for you to load in after you click the deploy button.
Yeah.
And I'm like, nah, make the game look like shit, like BattleBit Remastered, but I can respawn like that, you know, and I can have 250 people on a map. So yeah, it's free to play. I think it'll be a lot of fun. I'll probably play a little bit more of it, especially when it fully comes out, because you can unlock stuff. I really like that they're not committed to extraction shooter or Battlefield. They're providing both. They're also providing a campaign. I don't think the campaign is part of the free to play, but the campaign is a remaster, I believe, of Delta Force Blackhawk Down, which is super exciting. So if you're into shooters, if you're into extraction shooters, if you're into Battlefield, definitely take a look at Delta Force Hawk Ops. It seems pretty cool. You guys thinking about checking this out? I don't know if this is up your alley.
Yeah, I just submitted a request for the playtest, but it looks cool. It looks like, this is weird to say this. Well, maybe not so much about like a much smaller game than a much smaller produced game than Warzone, but it looks really polished just from
it is
the screenshots and the videos.
And it also it feels really good, and it feels like Battlefield plus a lot of unique mechanics and abilities on top of it, which is awesome. Battlefield's in a bad place right now. But Battlefield still feels good. It's just like, what are they doing with the content? Why does it cost this much money? And what new stuff is there? And it feels like this is solving all of those problems.
Cool. Yeah, I'd love to check it out.
Yeah, it's really cool. I've also been playing Mini Shoot Adventures. Have you guys heard of this indie game? So shout outs to Jeff Grubb and Dan Reichert over at Giant Bomb. They let me know about it. This is basically a top-down twin-stick shooter meets the original Legend of Zelda.
I dig the art style.
It's a weird premise, but basically the idea is, if you think about the Legend of Zelda gameplay, you're in an area, you're going screen to screen. The screens are full of enemies. You're finding caves. Some of those caves have abilities that then let you go to other areas and unlock other things. And you're hitting boss fights, and you're basically like going through an area and trying to clear it out. Sort of an open world, 2D open world, top down type of thing. But you are like a twin stick shooter, little spaceship. You're on the ground, but you look like a spaceship. And what's really cool is I'm not a big fan of twin stick shooters. So what's y'all's takes on twin stick shooters? You like twin stick shooters, Kyle? I mean, Carl?
Take them or leave them. You know, either one.
Yeah. What about you, Carl?
I've enjoyed them more than I haven't. They're pretty fun.
I think I don't have anything against them. I think my problem is I play them for 15 minutes and I go, cool. That's it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
This solves that immediately because you start and you're just a little pea shooter. But as you're going through the game, you're unlocking upgrades, and the upgrades are like, okay, how fast are you firing? How far does your bullet go before it disappears? Like, what's your crit chance? What's your move speed? What's your boost speed? How many bullets are you firing at once? Is it 1? Is it 2? Or is it 3? What's the spread of that? So I've probably played an hour or 2 of this game because I'm not a super big fan of twin stick shooters because, again, it feels like you're making no progress. But in this, I'm making progress. I'm unlocking areas, right? I'm getting new abilities. I'm improving my shooting skills as a twin stick player, but also like the shooting ability of my craft because it's doing more damage and it's spitting out faster bullets and farther. And it feels really good. It just feels like one of those concepts where you're like, this is unique, but it makes perfect sense. And the way they've implemented it is perfect. Like, they know exactly how to keep you going, how to give you something interesting to work towards. What's behind that? Oh, there's something there. It just feels like a really well crafted game. You guys, I don't know if that's making any sense in terms of like a game that is, it's not necessarily doing anything super unique or new, but it just does it to perfection in terms of game design. Yeah, a lot like the SteamWorld games, like SteamWorld Dig, SteamWorld Heist, etc. Well, that's it. Those are the games I've been playing this week. Any other games you guys want to talk about before we head on over to the news section?
No, man. I honestly haven't gamed that much this week, so that was it.
Same. Let's go to games news. First up, let me run through the deck here. We have 5 big pieces of games news, and then we can dive in wherever you guys would like. First up, we have 2 new Halloween games announced. John Carpenter is, quote, intimately involved with them.
I love that.
Also,
intimately involved.
Sure. We also have The Verge, who has said, fuck your non-existent NDA, and done a full expose on Valve's secret new shooter Deadlock, which 200,000 people around the world are playing this secret game. There is a new backyard sports games being teased as revealed by TikTok investigative journalists. Dragon Age the Veilguard has a release date of October 31st. And finally announced today, I don't know if this is Test Castles or the Elder Scrolls Castles, but Bethesda's newest mobile game from the team behind Fallout Shelter will be launching on September 10th. Any of those games or game news items tickling your interest, gentlemen?
Well, I mean, I kind of want to start with the last one you mentioned just because I want to get it out of the way. I remember when Fallout Shelter started, and that was like around the time I think I got my first iPhone. I can't remember exactly what year, but I remember it coming out and being like, oh, this is going to be like the game that I play on my phone. And I didn't last like 15 minutes playing that thing.
Because that was the same E3 they announced Fallout 4, which was the Fallout 4 release year. So that would have been like what, 2016, 2017, somewhere around there.
Yeah, I guess maybe it wasn't, it would have been a couple years after if it was 2016, 2017, but maybe it was on my first iPhone, but so I don't really care. I mean, tell me more about the game, I guess, is
fuck no. I don't give a shit about this game. Carl, do you care?
Not really. I mean, the funny thing about this whole thing was that the reply to the tweet was, if you're 13 years old, you got 2 Elder Scrolls game on your phone and no new actual Elder Scrolls game.
That's so funny. That's very true.
I feel like I don't know why they made this. Well, that's not true. The gamer in me says, why did you make this? But the capitalist in me says there's probably enough fucking idiots out there that spent money on Fallout Shelter for them to be like, yeah, let's just spin up an Elder Scrolls spinoff. And to be fair, it feels like they have added some sort of like turn-based combat thing, just judging by the video to this. So it's not just the flat out, ant farm side view that Fallout Shelter had. There is still that element in Castles, but it feels like there's a bit of a party adventure element to it. So who knows? It could be cool, but at the same time, like, you guys remember the Commander Keen mobile reboot that Bethesda put out? Exactly. Yeah, there is something going on at Bethesda where they keep trying to make shitty mobile games, and it's like, I don't want to say why are you wasting your money, because I know why. Because Monopoly Go has made like $4 billion or something like that. It's because if you get a hit, it's a fucking colossal hit. But at the same time, you don't have to actually release the game if it's bad, right? If you know, you don't need to fully cook it, you know. So, okay, fuck it. Let's rip the Mandate off, guys. We got to talk about Deadlock. Are you guys excited about Deadlock?
Not in the slightest, but it's interesting.
But I mean, I want to play it to experience it. But honestly, the thing I heard about this game more was what happened to The Verge than what the game was actually like. That was the story.
Yes.
So
yeah. You want to give the quick breakdown on that before we talk about the game?
Well, okay. Was it Tom Warren? Who was the guy who played? Who actually was?
I don't think it was him. He was the one that tweeted the article
that he was reporting it. Okay, Tom Warren reported, or it was Tom Warren, whoever it was, at The Verge, got invited to play the secret new game Deadlock, which is like a kind of hero shooter, third person, whatever sort of thing.
Just real quick. People who are currently playing the game have invites to get out. So Valve did not invite him. He got an invite from somebody already playing the game.
Yeah, it's like if you get in, you have like a ton of invites. Like you can like invite like a bunch of people if you want to.
200,000 people at least playing this game.
Yeah,
right now.
Yeah, have any of you gotten an invite? No. I haven't gotten one. But,
I didn't feel like chasing one down.
Yeah, I'm sure someone will come up with something, or they'll have another beta that's more open. But anyway, this guy from The Verge is playing, and at the very beginning of your play session, you are hit with an early development build. Like you have to acknowledge that there's a soft NDA, I think is what they were calling it, where it was like, don't talk about the game too much, don't spoil too much, like just your sort of generic, like, hey, this is not supposed to go out wide, even though 200,000 people are playing it. And he skirted a button and then just it disappeared, and he went and played the game, and he was like, oh wait, I work for The Verge, I can post all this stuff. And he specifically posted exactly what he did, and he made a very big stink about, I specifically have not signed an NDA, I did not accept the terms and conditions, it didn't force me to do that. So he wrote an entire article, posted about it, and then Valve banned him apparently for like ever or something. That was the story that I heard, more so than anything about the game itself. And, you know, I guess I should read the actual article, but I just read other articles about the article. So
yeah. And there are people, the Twitter beef online, I don't know how big it is basically people saying like, how dare The Verge report on this? Like, this is sneaky and scummy. And then lots of journalists, and I would agree with them, or say, hey, it's Valve's fault. They're a multi-billion-dollar company. They need to protect their shit, and they didn't protect their shit. And they left it wide open, basically. The game, though, look, folks, I was not that excited for this game. I was a little excited. All we heard previously was MOBA FPS, basically, that you're playing an FPS. It's a hero shooter, but you also have AI teammates that are periodically respawning. There are lanes down the map, and the AI teammates will go down the lane until they hit some sort of guardian or tower type of structure, and they won't defeat them unless you're there to help them, and hence MOBA FPS, right? And I was like, oh, that's pretty interesting. But reading this Verge article, which has the most detail by far, they talk about how it feels really good. They talk about how there's 20 plus heroes and they all feel really unique and interesting. They talk about how the AI teammates actually feel really good. And what they mean by that is it doesn't feel like they're too dumb, but they're also not too smart. So you can come across a battle where they're fighting and it feels like a battle, but they won't win unless you pitch in. And even if you pitch in, it's still difficult. The biggest thing, though, the craziest thing, the greatest fucking enhancement in modern hero shooters ever, I'm calling it now, is they have a sky rail system where if you respawn and you're at the respawn and the front line is far away, you can just jump onto the sky rail that takes you zipping across the map and jumps you off right behind the front lines. And they said that it's really well done. It doesn't take advantage. You can't use it in combat, but it just gets you from the respawn to the fight faster. And that's fucking amazing, right? Isn't that incredible?
Someone was like, I just replayed BioShock Infinite and I think there's something we should pull from that game.
Yes. Yeah.
I do like that you can't use it in combat. It's just for traversal. But like, yeah, that's how many multiplayer games have you played where it's like, you know where the action is, but because you died, it just takes so long to get back to it. And by the time you do, the action has either shifted or it's like completely like different, and you want to get back there as soon as possible. I like it. They have a little GIF of it in the article, and I was like, oh, that's cool.
Yeah, they also said it has a lot of feels like TF2, a little bit in the art style, a little bit in the hero mechanics, etc. And even the Skyrail, like that feels like a smart engineer has put down a teleporter for you, like in TF2 to use. So, given those details, gentlemen, let me ask you again: are you excited about this game?
Sure.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, I'm excited too. I feel like there's a lot of hero shooters out there right now, and dare I say, none of them are great. Some of them are good, and that's it.
I also think that, well, what were you going to say, Carl?
No, I was just going to say, like, Valve were one of the first to do it, right? Like Team Fortress, was one of like the earlier, I don't want to say the first one, but they did
100%,
pave the way for like mainstream hero shooters.
Yeah. Yeah. And I also think, and we've said this before whenever talking about Valve, but like Valve, like they don't necessarily do this kind of stuff for the money. Like they don't need it. So Steam makes them so much money. So it's not like, hey, we need a new avenue for cash flow. So I tend to think that their developers approach things a little bit differently than like, hey, we need to make this work because we need to make money. It's more like, how can we make this as good as we as Valve can make it, rather than like, hey, we just got to get it going. So I think that hearing from players early on, even just in this beta, that it feels good to play is a really good sign. And, you know, as long as Valve is not making like a card game, I'm willing to play whatever it is that they're putting together. But yeah, I mean, it looks fun. It looks like definitely a little TF2, definitely a lot of Fortnite, but definitely like a bunch of other things that have sort of been spliced together in a way that, hey, maybe this is the next big thing, especially from Valve. But like maybe this catches on, and even if it's not as huge as Fortnite, which I doubt it will be, but like just having an option for something different that is really well made, is fun to play, and is sort of seamless, I'm down. Like that sounds fun.
So when you said like Valve and making money, you guys remember when Gabe Newell wanted to buy like a section of New Zealand?
Yeah.
Remember that?
Yeah.
Oh,
it's fine. It's fine.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it.
Kyle.
Yeah.
What do you want in a new backyard sports game?
Pablo Sanchez. He's got to be there. I remember playing backyard baseball all the time at my godparents' house. Their like home computer had it, and for some reason we never like took the CD from their house and put it onto our computer. But I really only played the baseball one. I don't think I played many of the other sports, so that's all I really care about. But I just wanted to maintain that sense of like that sense of fun in the way that like a kid's game can still be fun to play sometimes, where it's like I would like to go back and play the original. And I've seen, you know, there have been some streams on Twitch and stuff like that where people have gone back and played it, and it still looks fun. It looks the way that I remember it. I want that with like a fresh coat of paint. I don't necessarily need it to be like 3D, like ultra new graphics or something like that. I actually think more of like a throwback design, just updated and polished and really like slick. I think that could work really well. But explain what these details are, or it's just being teased or something.
Yeah. So essentially, unfortunately, I did not write these down because I'm not a good journalist. But essentially, there is a woman on TikTok who does a lot of like sports news and stuff, who dug into an account that has started posting teasers about backyard sports. They checked that Instagram account, and it follows a specific studio. And when they went to that game studio's website, their background image was a fence with a baseball diamond behind it in the style of backyard sports.
Oh boy.
Yeah, so there is likely a studio somewhere working on a backyard sports game. Maybe you guys can help me with this. I was trying to think of a good example. I know there have been these, which is a modern game, either a reboot, more like a reboot, but they do it very much in the original style of the original game. They've just added fresh mechanics on top and deepened it a little bit. Kind of like Windjammers 2. Where it's like, hey, we're not drastically altering the game. We're not making it 3D or super modern, but we're just bringing back that style of game and adding some stuff on top. To your point, Kyle, that's what I want them to do. I want backyard sports. I want that same type of feel, but I want it to feel like, oh, I'm playing backyard sports and it's just as good as I remember. But then if you happen to boot up the old game, you go, oh, wait, the old game feels like shit. Holy, my God, they did a lot here to make this feel so much better. But in your head, it feels the same. You know, it feels just as good. That's what I want them to do.
Yeah, same. Well, actually, Carl, did you grow up playing it?
He's too young.
No,
He's too young.
No.
You haven't gone back and experienced it?
Gone back.
God.
Haven't gone back to the yard. Haven't had time.
Yeah, he hasn't dug out his Atari for it. Yeah. Yeah, so I'm excited to see what that is. I do have to be a pessimist. I have to say it's more likely than not that they are going to fuck this up. But there's a chance here they make a fantastic backyard sports game.
I'm just happy it's in the news. You know? Oh yeah, it could be. Yeah.
Cool. Let's head on over to the Business Journal and check out some business news. There's really only one item this week, which is that Krafton has strengthened their global presence through strategic integration of Tango Gameworks and Hi-Fi Rush IP. Carl, were you as shocked by this news as the rest of the gaming industry?
Shocked isn't the right word. Sad is the right word.
Sad? Well, why are you sad about this?
Yeah, I don't know if this is like a controversial take, but like I just don't like Krafton. I don't like the things they make, and like Hi-Fi Rush is just.
What has Krafton done? I'm not familiar with them.
PUBG. Did they make anything hold? I think they did anything.
They're the company that owns PUBG,
right? Yeah. Hold on. What do we got here?
Oh yeah, they're the South Korean company that now owns PUBG Battlegrounds, PUBG Mobile, Callisto Protocol. That's pretty much it, honestly.
Yeah. I don't.
They did Subnautica.
Did they?
Oh, okay. Yep. As a publisher.
Yep.
Okay. See, that's where this feels like a studio that has hit it big, and they have money to spend, and they want to expand. So I am slightly optimistic for this, because to your point, Carl, they've only pretty much done PUBG so far. But at the same time, I'm like, that's neither good nor bad. You know, this is their first opportunity to take in another studio and do something else with it. And it's good to see Hi-Fi Rush and the folks at Tango Gameworks. I believe as of this afternoon, they said at least 50 people that originally worked at Tango Gameworks have accepted the offer to come back and work for Krafton under this new Tango Gameworks studio. So what do you guys want them to make next? You know, they've done Evil Within 2, Ghostwire Tokyo, Hi-Fi Rush. Well, what do you want them to work on next?
Yeah, I think I heard some of them saying that they wanted to do a sequel, or at least a follow-up to Hi-Fi Rush. I loved that game. It was the first game I played and completed of that year, which was, 2022? I can't remember what year it was. It might have been 2023. I honestly can't remember. But I really enjoyed my time with that game. Me and Jake had a lot of discussions about just I forget what word I used, but it was like the rhythmosity of it, like how you flow in and out of the play styles and everything is so fun and so unique. And it was just like it literally felt like a breath of fresh air, especially from a company under Bethesda at the time. Like, it was definitely like, oh, this is like out of nowhere. Like, this is kind of like crazy. And I'm just happy that the old team can kind of get back together as much as they can, that they're being offered new jobs after, like, it really was such a shock when Microsoft was like, bye, like, you're done. Like, sorry. And nobody likes that kind of story, especially in the gaming industry, when it's so common to have it happen that way, but especially to a developer with a pretty good pedigree and history of producing stuff that either makes a decent amount of money or is critically can be considered like a critical darling. I think that it's cool that Krafton specifically reached out to all those people and we're like, hey, we're bringing it back. If you want in, let us know. Like, that's cool. I don't necessarily care for like PUBG, but like I honestly haven't seen enough from Krafton to be like yay or nay. But they made, I think, they put a good foot forward, and it's good to have a win of sorts in the industry, especially with things the way that they currently are. So I don't know. We'll see. I'm just happy people have jobs.
Yeah, you know what? I'll run back the thing because I forgot the layoff section. That was very recent. I completely forgot that happened.
I'm sorry.
You were like, fuck those people. I just don't.
Yeah.
They don't deserve jobs.
Hey, Will, you're totally editing this, right?
No, we wouldn't do that to Carl.
If you've been laid off, you don't deserve a new job.
Yeah.
There you go.
So that's why I'm always on save date. I'm not here. Okay, cool.
Yeah. Well, also, Will and me are both unemployed, so we specifically didn't want you here. But,
gentlemen, please strap on your hardware hard-ons. It's time to talk about physical technology. Two big news stories this week. Number one, developers have reportedly been told not to expect Switch 2 until the next fiscal year, which means April 2025 or later. And the second news story, Valve has confirmed that it will be supporting the ROG Ally with its Steam Deck operating system. Any of these interesting to you, gentlemen?
The ROG Ally one, I hadn't actually heard of it until I saw it on the deck that you put together. But it's interesting. I guess I don't mind it. Like if it's just an OS that you can sort of port over or install over or whatever, it's fine. But I guess Valve is sort of like, there is a lot of competition in the handheld PC market right now, and I know quite a few people who prefer the Ally to the Steam Deck, just in terms of like output and power.
That's the only thing that it's better in the Steam Deck.
Yeah, and that's the only reason they prefer it, is to be like, oh, like the games will run better or whatever. I would still choose a Steam Deck. I would get like an OLED Steam, or I think you can get the OLED Steam Deck, right?
Yes.
If I was going to get a handheld PC, it would be a Steam Deck. But I think that Valve has sort of accepted, like, we are not the only players in this market anymore. So let's open up the gates, and if we can get get a smaller install base on a completely different system, then they can, start raking in the cash. But yeah, and I think you hit the nail on the head, which is that when okay, first of all, it's ROG, Republic of Gamers. How do you guys pronounce it? I say ROG Ally.
ROG? What do you do, Carl?
It's one of those words that I just say in my head and I don't think about pronouncing.
I will clarify. I only say that because that's how Alex Vitalia from Digital Foundry says it, and he's said it so much.
It's probably the
I just
right
say
way.
it the way he does. Yeah.
I like. I think Jeff Grubb says Roger Ally.
Oh no,
Roger Ally. He's a good guy.
Gentlemen.
He's a good guy.
I've got a phone call. Let me take this. If you guys can take the reins real quick.
Yeah, no worries.
Oh, that wasn't a bit. Oh, that's real. Okay.
I thought he was actually. Yeah. Well, no. So do you have a handheld PC? I
don't.
No.
I have not.
I don't have one either. My friend has a Steam Deck, and he's let me play around with it. And the games that I experienced on it, I was never like, this needs to be more powerful. So I don't necessarily buy that the ROG is the right course of action for anyone buying one.
Yeah.
Right now, but I don't know. I'm glad that Valve has opened up a little bit more. It's like Apple has their closed garden, and Valve has sort of been a little bit more lenient in that area, I think.
I think you had a good point, which is that Jeff Grubb calls it the Roger Ally, so I'm just going to steal that joke. The thing about the Roger Ally is, I think you're right. It's not that the Steam Deck necessarily needs more power, because there's a lot of games that run really well on it. It's that the Roger Ally, the last time I did like the rough calculation, is like 40 to 50% more powerful. Like, it is a crazy difference for I think like $100 or $200 more. Like it's crazy, the difference. But the number one fault with it was it's running Windows. Have you guys ever tried to use Windows on like a tablet? like Windows OS, but on a
only
tablet
Windows
device.
8. That's
No.
it.
It fucking sucks. It's
Yeah.
terrible. It's not meant to be a tablet because even when you put it in quote unquote tablet mode, it's constantly trying to kick you into desktop. And then imagine trying to interact with the Windows desktop in tablet mode where you just have your finger. Like, it doesn't fucking work. And that's the number one problem with these. And the number two problem is that these manufacturers like ROG, they try and provide some sort of abstraction layer where they're like, oh, we have our gaming software, so you don't have to go to the desktop. And guess what, folks? Their gaming software is shit, and half the time you do have to go to the desktop. And in the background, you know it's just booting Windows and then booting up. And it's just, Windows is not meant to be a handheld OS. So if you have a Roger Ally that can actually run Steam Deck OS and get, let's say, 95% of the way there in terms of like sleep mode, on and off, ease of use, that's very fucking tempting. Like, I'll tell you this right now.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure when the Steam Deck 2 gets announced, as long as it is a decent power bump, etc., I'm gonna buy that shit day one. It's too late for the Steam Deck 1. It's a little bit too underpowered for me. I don't need to use it that much, but I've been sold on Steam Deck, so Steam Deck 2, I will buy it. However, if this Roger Ally Steam Deck OS ends up working really well, I may just buy a fucking Roger Ally refurbished for like $450 and go that way. Because, like, this is basically a Steam Deck 2 in hardware. This is very smart from Valve because they're probably having a licensing payment as well. So I'm excited for this.
Sorry, I just
Carl's
Googled
having
the
reactions.
price.
Yeah, I was like,
Yeah,
what's
sorry,
going
I
on?
was
What
like-
are you reacting to?
When you said refurbished for $450, I was like, how much does the base? It's $600 for the base thing.
Look at the Steam Deck prices.
No, I get that, but the fucking PS5 on release date was like 500.
Yeah,
Five to
which one has more
600.
games, Carl, though? Which one
Jesus,
has more
okay.
games?
Also, technically,
Come on.
technically, you
Yeah.
can get a Steam Deck for $400. It's just like the
Yes.
lowest model.
Yeah.
So yeah.
But that's kind of my point is like if you're paying $200 more, but you're getting 40 to 50% more performance and a better screen
Yeah.
in terms of resolution, it's like, and it's the same OS, like you don't have to deal with the Windows OS. It's like, oh, fuck me. Like, why wait for
Yeah.
Steam Deck 2 at that point? You know?
Yeah.
That's my point. Hey, Switch 2, April 2025 or later. What are your thoughts? When's the Switch 2 coming out? What are you thinking?
Before Silk Song, maybe.
Before Silk Song. Yeah. Still a little uncertain.
I'm going to go against the trend. I've said this for a while, not this specifically, but people have been acting like the Nintendo Directs have been petering out and they're running out of software and games, and that's them trying to hold back things for the Switch 2. I don't believe that shit for a minute. We just got a brand new Legend of Zelda game announced for the Switch. I think Switch 2 is next holiday season. That's my guess. They've got time. They got plenty of runway next holiday.
They need to release. Well, Nintendo wants to release it during a big holiday season. If it's Christmas or like, I don't know what other like
Black
Thanksgiving
Friday.
with like Black Friday and stuff like that. Like in that area, sure. But yeah, it doesn't really make sense to me for them to release it that early into next year. Like to just drop it. I think they can announce it like officially or like tease it or something like that. I don't remember when the first trailer for the original Switch came out.
I think it was November, and then it came out in March.
Okay, so if they
they
did
do
that
weird
kind of
release
time
dates.
frame, yeah. And
Like,
you know
I was
there's going
gonna
to be
say-
like a direct about it and everything. So yeah.
I was going to say I could see in August or September, because one of the things they've specifically said is we will delay the launch to make sure there is enough physical units at launch so people can buy it and there won't be any sort of shortage. So I could see them doing an August, September launch to get through that initial launch window. Well, get through the initial launch inventory and re-up by the time for the holidays. So I could see them releasing, mid to late summer next year as well. Carl, what's your prediction?
Yeah, I genuinely, I don't know if it's 2025 because it's been like, haven't they had like announced that it was going to come out like before, like a few times now?
They showed it off
they've
supposedly at Gamescom last year to investors.
And they have acknowledged that it exists by saying we will not be talking about the successor to the Switch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They
That's
like
it.
preempted questions about directs and they were like, don't ask. Like, we're not talking about it.
Well, it's yeah. Again, like the thing about Nintendo is they tend to push off those kind of major releases. Look, honestly, like in today's industry, I kind of tend to have low hopes for release
Yeah.
dates being what you assume they're going to be.
Yeah, especially
Yeah.
Nintendo. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I'll say what we said the last time we talked about this, but Nintendo's going to do what Nintendo wants to do. Whatever they
Yep.
think is best, like it doesn't matter what anyone says or like any leaks, like until Nintendo says it, no one knows. So
Yep. Exactly. Gentlemen, if you could follow me into the entertainment tent, I have one item on display today, which is that Prime Video has ordered an animated video game anthology series called Secret Level from the creators of Love, Death, and Robots. I've not seen Love, Death, and Robots, but the premise is that it's a bunch of short stories. Each episode is a short story. And the idea with Secret Level is they will be licensing out IPs. One of the rumors IP'd is Assassin's Creed. So they would have a short episode that is just, here's a little Assassin's Creed short animated episode. What do you guys think about it? Any of you guys seen Love, Death, and Robots?
yeah, so I actually really I like a few of the episodes of that show a lot. Like they're really, really good. I think David Fincher was involved in the first season. I'm not sure about the other ones.
That sounds right.
Some of them are hit or miss. Like some of them are definitely not as good. But when they hit really well. Especially that first season. Man, I highly recommend you check it out.
Was the toaster thing from Love, Death, and Robots, or is that a different thing?
Brave
Little Toaster. Actually,
thought we
I do
both
think
went
you're
there.
right. I do remember some toaster thing in Love, Death, Robots. Like it was on the poster.
Dude.
Yeah, I can't remember. I haven't watched the third season. I've only seen the first two. I think there's a third season, but yeah, it's still good. I don't know about the toaster thing though. I will say one thing. So this did not get a lot of news when it first came out. Ubisoft partnered with Netflix and some animation studio, and they released Captain Laserhawk. It was like a 6-episode animated like mini series, and it was actually really good. And it sort of
was that based on something?
It was kind of within the world of Far Cry
Blood Dragon.
Blood Dragon. Yeah, it was like kind of that spinoff. Rayman is in it.
Yeah,
like it's a bunch of Ubisoft properties that have kind of been meshed together. It was also like pretty sexual and very gay, which I appreciated. But it was good.
Disgusting.
Like, and it was. I know it's. I hate it too. But yeah, it was really good. So Ubisoft strangely has a good track record with like pulling their IP and putting it into different genres of films and animated stuff. So I don't necessarily mind this, especially if it's the Love, Death, and Robot people. I think they'll do it with, a pretty professional, well done sort of methodology behind their backs. But I don't know. I want to see more. I'm interested.
Yeah. Amazon Games New World and Spelunky are two of the other rumored IPs. What's your take, Carl? Are you excited about this?
I just don't know how they're gonna do it. Like, I'm trying to understand, because like if Assassin's Creed is one of them, and they were going Spelunky, that's like a
weird...
wild.
I kind of like it. It's just little. It's like the Animatrix. You've just got weird little shorts. Different people making them. Different ideas, different stories, different IPs. We've talked about it before on Dwarf Boys, but I feel like Dwarf Fortress would make a fantastic TV show, even just a little short. Like just, hey, here's a little 30-minute Dwarf Fortress story. There's a fortress, things are going weird, this guy's being weird, things are happening, werewolves show up, that kind of shit. You guys got any IPs that you would love to be part of this like short animated anthology type of idea? Borderlands?
God damn it.
Only if Eli Roth is directing. Yeah, I mean, well, the one for me, obviously, which is my go-to, would be like a Mirror's Edge kind of thing. I feel like you could tell a pretty cool, like 30-minute, like parkour, like intensive story about within the Mirror's Edge world. Either that or Crap, what is that game that came out a couple years ago? I just thought of another one. This is not necessarily it, but I feel like somehow like Max Payne would be pretty cool.
Perfect for a short, terrible for a movie, perfect for a short.
No, not a movie, but definitely a short. Yeah.
Carl, you got any in the bag you want to pull out?
I feel like Outer Wilds would be pretty good for it. They're definitely not going to do that cool again, but
yeah.
Or okay. I mean, if we really wanted to push a little bit further, I think Helldivers could be fun.
Helldivers. Like a Halo 3 advertisement style Helldivers too. Yes.
Yeah.
I was thinking of something that I keep forgetting and will maybe come back to me. Oh, the game's not out yet, but Space Trucker, the game where you play a truck driver but in space. That would be a cool kind of like that Cowboy Bebop episode where they're like checking the shipping containers, where you're just like, got another load, that would like a rockabilly Space Trucker episode. That would be awesome. Yeah. A lot of cool ideas there. Gentlemen, let's close out the show with a content call out. There has been breaking news this week from Guinness World Records. A man has won the record for most gaming consoles connected to a TV. Ibrahim Al Nassar from Saudi Arabia has connected 444 consoles to a single TV, and the parameters are, without detaching or connecting cables, he can turn on any console and play it on that TV through a series of HDMI switches. There's a wild video. I'll paste it in the chat and in the show notes.
I was going to say, the Guinness website is not working, but...
Oh, it's loading for me. It's a wild video. Like, it's a 4-minute video where he walks you through his system. And there's a couple things. Is basically he has a series of HDMI and composite switchers like chained to each other. And he has a spreadsheet. So he's like, if I want to play the Sega Dreamcast, the first switcher goes to number 3, the second switcher goes to position 5, and then the third switcher goes to number 7. And it works. And then the other thing is he has it all set up in a room. And he says he spent a lot of time setting up the consoles and everything so that they're visible, they're available, and there's no cables showing. So he just has which was wild when he pointed it out. I was like, you can't see any cables, and there's 444 consoles hooked up here. It's wild. Crazy. It's incredible. You've got to check out this video. There's some Guinness World Records where you're like, yeah, sure, that's bullshit. I know you put some effort into that, but that's bullshit. This feels like one of the most earned world records I've ever seen. This is wild. He does, in the video, say that there's one console that, in his mind, in his opinion, is the greatest console of all time, hands down, forever. Kyle, what do you think it is?
Okay, can I ask a question before I guess? Is it one of the major consoles, or is it like a smaller one?
Yeah, I would say major.
Okay. I'm trying to... I want to say something a little bit more like off the beaten path. Is it like the Sega Genesis or something? Like something...
Fuck me, it is the Sega Genesis.
You kidding me? Wow. I swear I haven't watched this video. I was there's no way it's like...
I'm sorry. It's not the Sega Genesis. It's the Sega Master System, because he's in Europe. System.
Okay.
So yeah, no, okay. I'm kidding. I think he does say Genesis. But yeah, you did get it.
Wow, that was completely a guess.
When this came across my feed, I watched it and I was like, is this like? There's a description which is 400 plus consoles, one TV, and I'm like, no way. And then you watch it, and it's one of those few videos that not only delivers, but is better than you could ever imagine. And by the end of it, you're like, I'm so proud of you, man. This is the coolest fucking thing. He has one of those 21:9 ultra wide curved monitors just to have the spreadsheet on it, the Google Sheets on it, so that he can look up which console. And I'm like, this guy's
loaded. Oh my god,
so
this is like
good.
He's got like a command center. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's like a full room, like a 25 by 15 foot room minimum. that is just filled with consoles on all these like IKEA Kallax console cabinets. And he has arcades hooked up to it as well. 444 distinct consoles.
Honestly, it looks
wild.
like your room is like a version of that he would put together in a cool way.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not,
Yeah, but 10 times better. Yeah, it's it's amazing. Well, gentlemen, that's going to do it for this week's episode of Local Chat. Thank you so much for joining. Before I start the outro music, because it's the short and sweet version that I like, Carl, thank you for joining from Save Data. Any content or handles or locales or URLs you want to shout out?
Well, the only Uncle Earl I can point you to is youtube.com or twitch.tv/SaveDataTeam. God forbid I post the video I've been working on for 3 months. You can go over to youtube.com/officialprocrastinator if you can type that out. And yeah.
Beautiful. And Kyle, any shout outs you want to give?
Nope.
Good
None.
enough. Well, gentlemen, let me start this outro music. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us. Viewers, thank you so much for viewing us. Listeners, thank you so much for listening to us and putting us in your ear holes. We are Subpixel Team. You can find us at Subpixel Team on Twitter, Twitch, TikTok, Instagram, Kick, Facebook, Mixer. We've got all sorts of stuff going on. We're going to be back tomorrow, 5 p.m. Eastern, for some more Back to New Vegas. And then we'll be back on Monday with some more Back to New Vegas. And then next week is more Fire Emblem, all sorts of stuff. Subpixel Team. Check it out.